Welcome back to another torch review. I have the JetBeam Jet E10R in for review today, and this was sent in via Gearbest. So I'll go through my normal procedure. I've quite a bit more to talk about with this torch for various reasons. I've just started straight off looking at the body. The colour is very much typical JetBeam with a sort of a dark grey. You have a sort of stainless steel ring at the top, and I'll unscrew the base cap. Decent bit of knurling on that. You see the spring there. This torch is designed to take 14500 lithium cells and AA cells. So that's quite a major advantage if you're someone that uses AA types, and you might want to use a lithium cell later on. But it also has a micro USB charging port, just showing the sizes here with the two various battery types. No problems at all with the sizing. Some of the torches that I've used can be a little bit tight for the lithium cells. Now the clip, you can actually take that off. Personally, I am not a fan of this design because of that edge there that sticks out. I'm not really sure why that they've put that on there. At first I thought maybe it's to put the hand strap, wrist strap, but obviously you have an attachment point on the base cap for that. Anti-roll possibly, I'm not sure, but it's a design that I'm not particularly comfortable with because it doesn't make the torch very comfortable to hold in the hand, and it could dig into, if you have it into your pocket, clipped onto your pocket, it could dig into it a bit. Also, that silver ring does rotate around, so again, it's more of a cosmetic touch rather than a practical one. Now I'll just unscrew the head. You'll be able to see the micro USB charging port. You will have to take the head off to get to that charging port. You can't sort of half unscrew it. That's not really a problem in itself, just make sure that you don't lose the head. Using a Cree XPL High LED with a smooth reflector on this model. The side switch on this is quite small. It's pretty much flush with the body. Personally would have gone for a slightly larger design on the side switch, but we'll go through the box just to show you some of the features. Up to 650 lumens. You've got a range of around about 129 meters, they reckon. Water resistance and drop proof. And this goes through the standard sort of spec as well, size. Size-wise, it's a bit longer than some of the ones that I've used, possibly due to the micro USB charging port. Obviously you can use nickel metal hydride, alkaline and rechargeable cells with this torch, so it's quite versatile in that regard. And going through the manual, typical sort of JetBeam, as in they've got fairly high contrast images, also quite large, so pretty easy to follow. Couple of translation errors, but it does the job. The charging indicator is a bit strange, we'll come on to that later on. I would have just simplified that myself. And as far as the operation goes, it's actually pretty simple. JetBeam seem to have a reverse system where they go from high down to low. Not really a problem, it's just the way that they do. Now you notice the run times here and the output. There's a pretty big drop if you're using a lithium ion cell, because we've only got 3 power levels, particularly from the high down to the medium. But we'll just have a look at that a bit later on so you can see that. Here's your warranty card, make sure you hold on to that. And you get a short micro USB charging cable included, as well as a decent quality wrist strap with the center adjuster. Not much difference between these wrist straps, but some of them have a low profile section. 2 red spare O-rings. Now operation on this is pretty simple, it's slightly different to some torches. Single press to turn it on, and then to cycle through the modes. If you want to get to the strobe mode, you'll have to double press. And to get into the lockout is a long press, and you'll see it start to flash to let you know that it's into the lockout mode, and when you release it, the lockout is on. So when you push it, you won't be able to activate it unless you push and hold it again. Glad that's got a lockout, even though the side switch is pretty small. And turning it off is just a long press again, a long press rather than a quick press. Just takes a bit of getting used to compared to the O-light, which I have here, which is just single press on and off. It's also a fair bit longer than the O-light, although it's a bit smaller in terms of the diameter. One thing I noted that I didn't particularly like on the JetBeam is it's quite a smooth body, not particularly grippy. The O-light has a lot of knurling on the body, and you'll see they have a different LED transmitters, different reflectors there. The O-light has a special optical lens. Now the magnetic test, no battery. I was pretty disappointed with the JetBeam. It can't even hold itself when attached to a fridge, and that is an excellent object to attach a torch to, or a chair. It just doesn't have the strength in the magnet unless it's pointing down. So the magnet just isn't powerful enough to hold the torch. So I did put a battery in it just to check, and it can sort of just about hold it when it's pointing downwards, but that's it. And that to me is disappointing. It's as if someone didn't really bother to test the torch properly. And looking inside, you can see that the magnet is quite small. Now it works great with the cap on its own, and the base cap, but that's not much use to me. Another reason is probably because they've recessed that part, so it's just a poor design. They haven't really thought about it properly. Now what I'm going to do now is test the charging in the torch to see what the charging speeds are. And we'll also have a look at the termination. So with the nickel metal hydride cells, you're getting around about 350 milliamps. You can see the red and green comes on, and the green goes off, turns to red when it's finished charging. We've got a termination of 1.36 volts, which is undercharging the cell. Should be about 1.45 to 1.5. So charging performance isn't great on that one. Got an OLite lithium ion cell. Plug that in and test the charging speed on that. Starts off low, then gradually cranks up just under half an amp. So that's a pretty decent charging speed for that. Then it turns to blue when it's finished. The charging LEDs would have just been simpler, red charging, green finished. I don't know why they've made it more complicated than it needs to be with that. And we'll test the charge termination. 4.2, 4.19, so perfect on that for some reason, not with the nickel metal hydride. Now the waterproof test I will come back to later on. What I'll do now is show you some beam shots outside, and we'll talk about a few other areas. When I came to edit the video this morning, as I normally do, I picked up the torch and noticed that there was condensation under the lens, and also you'll be able to see that the coating on the reflector is damaged. Probably a combination of heat and water has taken the coating off. Now I'm pretty sure that it's not coming in through the O-rings. I checked them. Possibly the side switch is a culprit there. Now I appreciate out of every say 1,000 torches you might get a 41, and it looks like I got one on this particular torch. So even leaving that one issue aside, assuming that that would work properly on another sample, there's a couple of areas, more than a few areas, I'm not happy about with this torch. It's a very pretty looking torch, but it's not a very practical one. I was outside last night taking beam shots and using this as a secondary torch and fumbling around trying to find the side switch because it's too small and you can't really feel where it is. The magnetic base doesn't really work because it's not strong enough. The in-torch charging on the micro USB is undercharging nickel metal hydride cells, and it's uncomfortable to hold if you have the clip attached because it digs into your hand. These are small areas on their own. One or two of them might not be a deal breaker, but once you accumulate these, overall it's quite a disappointing torch. If the maker could go back and address these issues, you'd probably have a really good torch, and the price is appealing and the power output is pretty decent. So it's a bit of a disappointment for me on this model. It could have been brilliant and it just turns out to be relatively mediocre, even if I ignore the waterproof test which failed. But if you have this torch and you think it's great, let me know. Or if you've used it, give me your opinion on the torch and leave a comment below. Let me know what you think, and I will catch up with you very shortly in my next video review.